Welcome back to The Point of View. Tonight, we're speaking to former Chief Justice, Her Ladyship Justice Sophia Akuffo, on a wide range of issues. We started talking about the Constitution. She shared a few views on those. But the next segment will focus on a very troubling report. So a report by UNICEF and the Girls Excellent Movement revealed, this is 2023 by the way, that 51.9% of females in HSSs were sexually assaulted between 2019 and 2021. The report, titled Sheltered Yet Exposed, said 54.3% of those girls were between the ages of 17 and 22, while 45.7% were aged between 11 and 16. It said these acts were perpetrated by friends, family friends, schoolmates, teachers, and strangers. Friends topped the chart with 24%, family friends 12%, schoolmates 12%, teachers 10%, and strangers 9%. For somebody like you who has served at the highest level as a woman, hearing a report like this is not too dated, right?
No.
It irks you, I'm sure. Why should this be happening in 2023, 24, 25? What are your thoughts?
It's very disheartening that, it's like there's a certain adage, the more things change, the more they remain the same. Because it's almost as though we never moved. And it seems to me, it comes from a certain conception that, I will use the word conception rather than perception, that when you're a female, you're fair game, and indeed, when we were young, you were brought up to believe that every male, other than those at home with you, not even including the houseboy or the employees, are all predators, and therefore watch out. For my mother, that was her rule: stranger danger, watch out. And it's a shame that matters have not improved, even though we've got all sorts of laws now which have been well publicized. We've got special courts that deal with gender-based violence and so on and so forth. But it worries me. In fact, I realize from these statistics that even this stranger danger is even misleading, and therefore we need to revise.
So it's not even strangers.
The advice we give to I give to my granddaughter. It's not stranger danger, male danger. Maybe that's what it should be. We should go back to my mother's concept, male danger.
Is it a question of law or values? I'll give you an example. Last month, a video emerged of a teacher in a school called KNUST SHS who was seen behaving inappropriately with a student. Now, the discussion on social media seems to suggest that if the student is 17 and is of age, it's not such a big issue. Of course, a lot of people condemned it, but there was a bit of tolerance. And in fact, if you listen to some of the media discussions around this, they were trying to say, well, the girl knows what she was doing. Why are you blaming only the teacher? And there's a lot of that. So are we fighting a losing battle if all we focus on is the law? Because it seems to me that you may change the law, but if a person's thinking around appropriate behavior is wrong-headed, I'm not sure you will succeed in changing anything.
But you see, the law is only part of the toolkit. Whether it's even, you take any crime, or for that matter, any civil offense, the law functions as part of the toolkit, where when all else fails, that should not fail.
Okay.
But other than the law, there's also upbringing, there's also socialization, there's also morality, there's also common sense and decency, and a whole load of other forces that should work together. And so for when you in a society where somebody who is, in law we will say in loco parentis, somebody who is in the shoes
of a parent,
that's a teacher, that's a boss, that's anybody in a position superior to that of the survivor. I don't like the word victim. Yes. And so, somebody who's abusing, a boss who's abusing his or her position, for that matter, any person in a position of power who is abusing it, it is wrong. And the fact that you're 17 years old, and I have to tell you, I was never molested, but I think there will be very few females of any generation who do not remember some dirty old man somewhere along the line who, it could be, hey, Osofuba Jekoto Tofif Bremi. And then when you come, he's trying to entice you into his room to bring you the sweets. And if your mom has not warned you, then you follow him into the room. There's always, the predators are always there. And unfortunately, we still have in our society a vestige of, oh, don't talk about it. Oh, it's embarrassing. Oh, it's shameful. Oh, and what did you do? What did you do? Yes, look at the dress you're wearing. And that sort of thing, where there are all kinds of justifications that in some total amount to enablement. And we need, as a society, so basically, in answer to to your question, it's a whole social matter.
But let's come to the schools. We've had programs where people have called in to say a lot of our girls in secondary schools are being preyed upon by their duty bearers, whether it's a teacher or, and they feel like the way the educational service punishes errant teachers is more with transfers, and that there needs to be a stronger view of punishing offending teachers or duty bearers in a way that is more exemplary. I don't know what your reflections are on that. Some people also think we should even take it away from the GES and let it be dealt with as a criminal matter, because there are lots of times where the big punishment for a teacher found misbehaving is a suspension or a transfer. That's typically what tends to happen.
That should be beside. That should, because after all, okay, maybe it depends on whether
no,
there was
harassment.
A crime.
I'm not even talking about not necessarily
not a crime yet.
Yes, so maybe you have a 15-year-old student in SHS2 in an inappropriate relationship with a teacher, where they are texting and talking to each other in a way that is clearly unethical.
Okay.
Do you then? I'm not sure it's a crime, so I'm not sure how you're going to deal with that.
It will not. That's the thing. It's sort of borderline, because
it's ethical,
you see,
ethically wrong.
It raises ethical issues, professional ethics, and even social ethics, because an adult should not be relating to a much younger person in a certain way. And in some jurisdictions these days, they call it grooming. And that will also be dealt with as a kind of
offense
on its own, because
misdemeanor.
Even if it's just a misdemeanor, it is still an offense. So because sometimes in crime prevention, you don't want to reach the edge of the cliff. You would want to start putting up the barriers half a mile, at least half a mile from the edge of the cliff. And we really need to take a full second look at how we deal with crimes and offenses. Let me use the word offenses. Offenses against younger persons. I'm also using a gender neutral
because some of the
expression.
You say you don't like the word victims. Some of the survivors are boys.
Yes, and sometimes their situation is even sadder and more heart-wrenching than with the girls, because society is more ready to even hear the complaint from the girl, or even to begin to suspect and quickly come and rescue the girl than the boy. And the boy, they wouldn't even know how to tell their mom.
Yeah.
And if you can't tell your mom, who can you tell? And they might not even, when it happens, they might not even be able to tell their best friend. They don't have anyone they can whisper to. And in many cases, it's years after that they might speak about it to somebody else, and the agony, the emotional agony they went through. Abuse of a younger person is abuse
of a younger person. So are you proposing, for example, that our laws should
now
have a category for grooming?
For grooming,
yes. Because I'm not sure there's I'm not a lawyer, so I may not know this, whether grooming in Ghana is an offense.
I don't think it is an offense. The person didn't quite jump into the lake.
But in UK, it is an offense. I think in the US as well it is.
Yes, because grooming can go on for years. And sometimes the sad thing is that it will be under the nose of the parents. If the groomer is a person in a position of trust, and it will go on and on and on and on. And sometimes the grooming will begin to make the younger person feel uncomfortable, but they don't know what to say. You haven't quite attacked them, so they don't know what to say, but they know they are feeling uncomfortable, and that's why
maybe you should lead a campaign on refining some of the laws around that area, because you are obviously equipped in that area to propose some changes to our criminal laws. But let's still.
Will you join that campaign?
I'm putting you on air because of this. In fact, I am here because of that. How concerned are you about the paucity of numbers of our women in public office, particularly when the affirmative action law, at least on paper, I think the law has been passed.
It has been passed finally.
Sheila Minka-Premo and her people have finally gone through. But I, of course, we should celebrate that. But if you look at how affirmative action manifests in actuality, we still have a long way to go, don't we?
Yes, we still have a long way to go. And just as it took decades, I do believe decades, because Sheila and her group were at it for ages. Just as it took decades even to get the act to pass, even though it was a bill for 1,000 years. Yes. It's the same thing. The enforcement and the application becomes yet another thing, because it is an act that is whose intent and whose objective is to change thought and behavior. And so you can't just say that you've passed the act and therefore, hooray, everything is hunky-dory. So there have to be legal actions. There have to be more talks. There have to be more awareness raising. There have to be. We need to talk about it more than we have been doing. I would like to see maybe practically every day on some channel, on one channel or the other, a discussion going on about its provisions and the ramifications of the provisions and so on and so forth. But at the same time, we also need a whole load of revised regulations, regulatory, consequential regulations, which are aimed at actualizing the act. In many countries, they would then decide that they would even give percentages in terms of public positions. In some countries, I think in Rwanda, for every position occupied by a man, either the boss or the deputy has to be female, and so on.
So it should be as aggressive like that?
Oh yes, it has to be, because when you're changing behavior and mindset, it doesn't come naturally.
Do you think our political parties have a better role to play here in their primaries, where they could agree to allow some seats to be contested purely by women? Because we are 41 out of 276. That's so low. Would that work?
Without an act that specifically requires that each political party must ensure that they field not less than
X percentage
yes
candidates.
Exactly. And then there's also, for example, in Uganda, where there's a requirement, they have certain percentages for youth representation, for representation of the armed forces, representation of women, and there's a certain portion of seats in their parliament which is for women. Although women can compete with men for the general seats, there's a certain number of seats which only women can compete for. And you need to do that. It does not, I have to keep saying, to think gender equity and gender equality does not come naturally to a whole load of people, because society has been so male dominated for so long that people don't even see when they are even discriminating on gender basis against women.
So we need something radical.
Yes.
We'll take a break. This is still the point of view. My guest, Her Ladyship Justice Sophia Akuffo. When we come back, we'll deal with the issue of the natural resource sector. IEA has been shouting. For example, in September, they called for a halt to mining lease renewals and a reset of the mining sector in Ghana's interest. They've set him out the petroleum sector as well. What are your thoughts on those? And also the fight against Galamsey. We seem to be dithering on that fight. What are your thoughts on this government's fight against Galamsey? Stay with us.